Hi, I'm Brian Haney, Vice President of Customer Success with Deltek, and today we are here to discuss the importance and complexity around GSA schedules when doing business with the federal government. With me today is Jeff Sherry, Regional Sales Manager with Deltek's Washington Management Group, and he'll be talking a little bit about some of the challenges about getting on schedule as well as fulfilling those obligations once you do have a schedule. Jeff, thank you for being with us today and welcome.
Thanks, Brian.
So can we start off, can you tell me what is WMG?
Sure thing. Washington Management Group is a GSA Schedule consulting group that's been around for over 35 years, helping companies get on the GSA schedule and sometimes more importantly, helping companies manage their schedule.
So let's start with the basics. What is a GSA schedule?
A GSA schedule is a federal government contract vehicle that you go in and negotiate set terms, conditions, and pricing with GSA on behalf of the federal government, and it certifies your company and your pricing and your terms and conditions as fair and reasonable, allows you to sell directly to the federal government without having to go out to a full and open competition like an RFP.
So how important are they to a company's success in the market?
I believe it's very important. I mean, if you want to sell to the Fortune 1, the federal government, U.S. federal government, it's a must-have. I mean, there are other ways to sell the federal government, but the GSA schedule is the quickest, easiest, most effective way to do that.
So you mentioned must-have. I guess it's fair to say that getting on schedule is pretty important in this market. It almost sounds like it's a prerequisite to take on those business development activities and develop that particular schedule. But what comes next? Now you have a schedule. Are there things that you need to think about post-award if you're a contractor looking to do business in the space?
Most definitely, Brian. That's a lot of times companies get on schedule and they kind of want to set it and forget it, and it's absolutely not the case. There's a lot of issues around keeping the schedule current with your company's commercial practices and pricing. So as your company changes, you need to make sure that you make modifications to your schedule to keep it accurate, true, and correct with your current commercial practices. And a real big issue is the compliance around the regulations that you've agreed to in getting the GSA schedule.
So let's talk about that aspect of it a bit more, that compliance dimension. We hear a lot about that in the market today. We hear about mandates for transparency and oversight. With all of these market complexities and the changing landscape and the increasing importance of compliance in the space, how are you sure that your firm is adhering to those best practices and those regulations around compliance?
I mean, obviously the first thing is being aware of them and making sure that you put some processes and procedures in place to make sure that you're staying compliant with them. So it's real important to have the knowledge or hire an outside consulting group that has the knowledge to be able to come in and make sure you have a robust compliance program to track things like the base of award, price reduction clauses, Trade Agreements Act. So there's many aspects, and not everybody's an expert in those, but you need to make sure that somebody within your organization is, or you can get yourself in some trouble pretty quickly.
So you mentioned a few things dealing with pricing, and obviously in this market right now, it's very competitive. Pricing is a big thing that companies need to consider in how they go to market. It seems basic, but it's something that is sort of core to the effort as companies look to do business development. So, what advice do you have for companies that are dealing with their GSA schedules, and any advice around pricing in that regard?
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty complex issue within the GSA schedule, so you really have to look at how you sell commercially and what customers or classes of customers you sell to, and that will help you determine what the price is at GSA in those negotiations. And then on a compliance side of that, you need to make sure that you stay compliant with the relationship that you set up between your schedule and your commercial business moving forward. So it's something that when we help organizations, we spend the most time around the pricing piece. And it's real important not only to get it right at the first out of the gate, but really to stay up to date with it and compliant with it moving forward.
So we've talked about getting a schedule, all of the business development importance of that, and the mechanics around why a company would want to do that. We talked a little bit about what that contractor needs to think about throughout the life of that contract, of that schedule contract, and some of the important things that they need to factor to stay compliant. What happens after that? You're coming up on a renewal. what are some important things that companies need to remember as that schedule might be expiring, as they're looking at a renewal option period?
Yeah, the renewal process is very important. It's a schedule's good for 5 years, and you have 3 5-year renewals on most GSA schedules. So at the end of that 5-year period, you're going to have an option to renew for the next 5 years as long as you're putting business through the schedule. And that's really a time to go back and make sure that you've kept up to date and accurate and correct pricing procedures and terms and conditions. And if you haven't, that's a good opportunity for you to go in and kind of redisclose anything that has changed within your business and to renegotiate any kind of pricing or discount structures.
And WMG can help with that.
Most definitely. Washington Management Group will come in and really evaluate where you were at the beginning and where you are today and what's changed. So, what's happening right now with the renewal process is there's a real easy out for companies just to say nothing has changed. Well, if nothing has changed in 5 years, you're probably not in business anymore.
Great. Well, thank you for your insights today, Jeff.
No problem. Thank you, Brian.